Hi friends. So this is my first outdoor one this year. Just a short one. Some mobility. Okay? Yeah. What I'd like to do today is a lot of the things that I do by way of a warm-up for bar work. Okay, so whether that's going to be a squat, a deadlift, Olympic lifting, clean snatches, whatever it is that you're doing, there's a lot of little things that you can do to kind of get yourself ready to hang on to the bar. So that being said, I first off want to apologize. Baxter's probably going to make a few guest appearances here, but I want to apologize because a lot of the things that we are going to do today are not going to be accessible to everyone because there's equipment that's going to be required. Okay, a bar, of course, being the number one, but a lot of the things that I do make use of bands. As you can see behind me, I have a couple already strung up, some of which you've seen before that I've done, inside when I string them over one of my beams, and some of them you probably haven't seen before. Some of it, again, progressive, you'll be able to do if you've got bands, if you've got a bar. Okay, awesome, you'll be able to do some of it. Some of it you'll be able to do with bands and a bar and a squat stands, which I know a lot of you have. And then some of it you're going to need something heavier. In that I've got a squat rack here, and so using that as an anchor point because that's going to be important. So I just want to get that out of the way. Today isn't about necessarily following along step by step because the things that I'm going to do, honestly, I'm not going to have enough time to do them for as long as I do them and bring you along with me. Because I like to keep this fairly short, fairly concise, just to show you the types of things that we can do, types of things that you can do, and different, things to look out for or to play with. So generally speaking, when I am doing a mobility session, a warm-up, I'm going to start off with a little bit of like actual movement, cardio. I would normally start with a skipping rope or something like that and skip. Depending on what I've got available. If I don't have a skipping rope, just do box step-ups, box jumps, even, just doing some lunges, doing some movement that is going to help get you going. That's it. Okay, like keeping things fairly simple when we start looking at, doing things that are going to be more complicated. What you're then going to have to figure out is what type of movements are you going to be doing today? Okay, so if it's squat, cool. Well, hey, we know what the squat mechanic looks like. The squatting down. We know the areas that are going to be involved. Obviously, for the most part, we're going to be quad dominant, but we need support from hamstrings, from glutes. We're going to need core strength, and you're going to see a lot of the things that I'm going to do actually are going to be core related. Okay, because our trunk, our core is what's going to help keep us upright regardless of the movement that you are going to end up choosing to do with your bar. Something that I've talked about before, I think I did it in maybe a live or something like that. Actually, leave the stick alone. Thank you. Just leave it. Thank you. Yeah. So in a live is like shoulder work and trap work. I love using the bar to massage out my traps. Love is a very loose word because sometimes it's really fun and sometimes it's less fun. But you'll see when we get there. Okay. So as far as what we're going to do today, let's pretend that we've done a little bit of warm-up. Okay, so probably some skipping, some just dynamic movements, walking lunges, squats, just body weight squats, things to get the body going. Okay. It is a little chilly out here, but whatever. Okay. Once we start to figure out, again, what it is that we're going to be doing, that's when we can start playing with additional stuff. So we're going to start right away, blast some core. I've got a medium resistance band, okay, so red ones I've got is light, I've got a green one up here for heavy, and then my black one in the middle is going to be a medium resistance. Again, depends on what you've got available. Torso rotations. Okay, and so the rotation and anti-rotation stability is going to be a big factor on what we can do as far as stabilizing our movements with the bar. Okay. So even before touching the bar, obviously we're going to check in with our core. And you can, obviously the further away you get, the harder it's going to be. But what we want is a nice solid foundation and then rotation from hips. So kind of maintaining stability in the low back, but then playing with that thoracic mobility. Okay? And we adding a little twist. And so you can play with bringing it in, bringing it out, rotating. But what we want to try not to do is any kind of swaying or shifting with the hips. Hips stay, and we just rotate the body. Okay. So this movement, I do almost in between every single one of my warm-up sets. And I say warm-up, might be heavy by some people's, definition, but this type of movement is just going to help really start activating lots of things. And if you've done this before, you know what I'm talking about. We've got glutes active. Obviously, our low back is in that kind of activated protection space. We're checking in with that thoracic mobility, our shoulder stability. There's a whole bunch of things happening here. Okay. You would do, of course, other side as well. Okay. I'm not going to do both sides again. We're just kind of walking through this a bit to give you ideas moving forward. Make sure that you're balancing it out. What you do on one side, you definitely want to do on the other side. Okay. Now, there's lots of different things that you can do with your kind of medium weight band, or you can even use a lightweight band. I like using it as a single leg deadlift, kind of support / in unsupport. That's a word, okay? But so the single leg deadlifts, you can use this as a little bit of a balance, but as you know, it's not actually providing a lot of stability. And it's something that you then also have to pull against, playing with it. Okay, the single leg deadlift, again, great movement. And we've got core strength stability. That's where our balance is coming from. Activating glutes, hamstrings, whole bunch of fun stuff. When we're doing this type of movement, I like to do kind of 8 to 12 each side. And I'll probably do this maybe about 3 times. I don't do it back to back. I'll do like one warm-up movement, I'll do another warm-up movement. I'll kind of cycle through. Okay. But playing with just adding the either resistance with the band or adding that you have to kind of compensate for. The other band that I really love, and you've actually probably seen videos of me doing it on my Insta, where I'll squat, I'll use the band. I'll squat, I'll use the band, like every single time. Okay. So with this one, okay, we've played with the shoulder kind of rotation, the shoulder blade glide. Okay. What I like to do, I find my way down into a deep squat, and then I start warming up my shoulder, my back. And so it is a straight pull. Okay. I'm not bending the arm at all. It is a straight pull, gliding my shoulder blade down. So working on that scapular glide movement. Okay. This has the added benefit of I'm currently sitting in a deep squat. And so while I'm here, hey, all of a sudden my hips are getting used to that position. My ankles, my calves, my knees are getting used to this squatting position. Okay. Same thing, I like doing 8 to 12 each side. Hey Baxter. Baxter loves to support me when I'm doing mobility. Okay. Yeah, but really, take note. Okay? We're not bending the elbow, or to the best of our ability, we're not bending the elbow. It is this shoulder pull. Okay. Same movement in a bent over position, so we're lengthening our legs, finding a little bit of stretch through the hamstrings as well with our half lift, kind of that flat back position, working the shoulder glide again. Doing that both sides. I'm going to do my other side here. But a much higher volume than what I'm doing right now. For, again, these warm-ups, I know I'm saying again a lot. These warm-ups, I really do like taking my time, especially if I'm going to be playing with a heavy bar. A lot of the work that we do collectively, there's not a heavy bar involved. Okay? We're not looking for, a 1 or 2 or 3 rep max movement, squat or deadlift yet. But it's something that we just need to be aware of. Leave the stick alone. Leave it alone. It didn't do anything to you. Okay. So, torso rotations, super crazy important. Great way to warm up to help stabilize our movements. Okay, our shoulder, our back. We know, we've already identified that a lot of us have that tightness in our shoulders, in our lats. We need to be sure that we are good with it. Depending on how I'm feeling, I might go back to do a little bit more cardio at this point. Just get back on my skipping rope, maybe do another song or two, just to get moving again. Okay. So it really depends on your movements. This is where I'm gonna progress to the traps. Okay. So I haven't, again, even picked up the bar yet, right? Keeping the bar on the rack. And so this is gonna be available to any of us that have a bar, have a rack, or have a bar and have the ability to put our bar on something. As you get comfortable with it, you can start adding weight to your bar, but for most of us, the bars can be heavy enough as it is. Basically, we're gonna step sideways under the bar. I like moving close to one end, so then the other end is anchored here. Okay, moving close, stepping under it, lifting the bar off of it. So now it's resting on my traps on my shoulder. Using the bar, just like a foam roller, just like a massage, roll it around. And so you can roll it up towards the neck, you can roll it down towards the shoulder. While you're playing with this type of movement, position your neck differently, or your head. You can tilt your chin in and see how that feels. You can kind of roll your head away, taking your chin up, see how that feels. Each of us are going to experience this likely in a little bit of a different way, but play with it. This, for me anyways, is one of the best ways I've found to help massage out my upper traps. So the top part that does connect between the shoulder and your neck. And is just to kind of increase blood flow, get everything moving, no worries. There's a lot of trap strength required depending on our movements. Of course, our snatch are clean, but even squat. Okay, with squats, we are really active through the upper back. And so we're just playing with the movement. I love this. Okay, same thing, doing the other side. This is one of those movements that I could do probably like 5 minutes aside. And I'd probably do it about twice. Again, cycle in a couple of other movements and then come back to it. Figuring out that little massage, rolling it out. And for those of us that have really tight traps, you're gonna find out really quick. This is probably an important stretch. And I have coached some of us on this exact movement before, and I've even substituted in like a broom handle or something. If you don't have access to this, finding like a set of stairs, like hollow stairs or something that you can stick something through, then that way it'll be trapped kind of on this side, so that even if it's free floating, you're still gonna be able to provide a little bit of resistance so that the bar is kind of coming down on your shoulder. If you don't have anything and but you do have a bar, just be careful. Obviously it's long and it's not really designed to be traveling on your body in that direction, so the balance and stability is gonna be an issue. Playing with our bar, cool. Even before taking our bar off our rack, now same thing, if you have squat stance, you're definitely gonna be able to make use of this movement. More lats, more shoulders. Okay, so great stretch for our lats. Okay, arms on the bar, and we can just work on, for this one I would normally move my bar a little bit lower, but arms on the bar, and we're working to press ourselves down. Okay, so the action, a little easier to demonstrate with one arm, okay, is this push forward. Okay, likely starting to feel a nice big stretch there. Same thing, you can do one arm at a time. You can try both arms. If we're doing both, try to keep palms up. Of course, feel free to play with different options, because maybe changing the rotation on your arms is going to help a stretch that you need. Okay? There's not a lot of load here, and you're in complete control of that, so you can play with it. For bar, okay, if we're on squat stands and we don't have something to kind of push against here, maybe load your bar up a bit for some weight so that there's a downward pressure. We can also then play with like shoulder rotations underneath. So I'm just going to demonstrate the one arm because it's a little bit easier to do one arm, but rotating our arm underneath and then back. Okay, this type of movement, okay, playing with getting that elbow forward. Essentially moving us towards that front rack position that I know a lot of us have issues with. Okay? It's not even necessarily needed to do on the rack, okay? But you can just play arms, arms. Okay? Same thing. So front rack is a little bit easier to get the full range on there. You can do it from a back rack position, but your shoulder's in a much more compromised position here. So for those of us that are taking care of our shoulders, just be very careful. Same thing though, rotating underneath and getting that big movement. Flipping myself back around. Okay, so, okay, reps. No weight, okay, very little resistance, reps. Getting ourselves under. Because we really need to activate our shoulders, we really need to activate our lats, okay, because our lats, our back is going to be holding so much load in all of our movements. Okay, deadlift, I'll talk about that in a second. Okay, those cleans, those snatches, the lat strength, even the squat though, because what we're trying to do is pull down. Okay, if you're familiar with the lat pull down or anything, same movement. Okay, we're pulling the bar, trying to bend the bar over our shoulders, because that's going to provide us that braced core, that braced midsection, keep us safe. Now, I'm going to progress towards a little bit more active movement. So bands attached are going to be optional. I love using bands attached, especially as I start warming up towards my clean and my deadlift. But here is where we can just take the bar and we can start playing with the movements. And so we know, what our deadlift looks like. Hey, we can play with squatting down, holding the bar forward, okay, in that kind of clean grip position. You can also do it with your snatch grip, going wide. Same thing, just getting the body used to it. Depending on what movement you're going to be doing, check them out. Bands. So what is one of the things that we need to do for moving the bar? Okay. You've hopefully heard the term the bar path. Okay. And this really is the path that the bar will take from the start of the position to the end of the position. So whether that deadlift, squat, snatch, clean, okay, the bar travels. The bar path should be as efficient as possible. For a lot of us, what ends up happening if we aren't accustomed to that efficient movement is we end up getting like a sway. And so this is especially noticeable in something along the lines of the clean or the snatch. I'm going to try to just angle myself a little bit more side on. Okay, so ideally the bar just travels straight up and down, straight up and down. But for a lot of us, we have to use this momentum where the bar comes away from the body and we're just kind of launching it, okay, instead of moving the body around the bar, keeping that efficient path. I like using bands. And how I use the bands is I hook them onto the bar. And then I walk the bar away. So there is just a little bit of resistance of the bar going in this direction, closer to the rack. Okay. This resistance, I now have to start activating my lats, my shoulders, my upper body to keep the bar close. That's the same action that you're going to need even without the bands, is activating the back and shoulders to keep the bar close to you. So with the bands, you can once again trial all of these movements and feel that the bar wants to travel that way. Make that adjustment, squeezing it in. Okay, coming up, same thing. Now you're also going to notice when something like this happens is we likely are going to have to sit back on our heels. Sitting back on our heels. Okay, ensuring that we stay grounded. Because if we don't, the band's going to want to pull us forward. So that's going to be us being grounded through the whole foot. When I'm warming up for my Olympic movements, the snatch, the clean, I use the bands a lot. Up to and including with weight. It's the same thing. As you start getting comfortable, load up the weights. Okay. This one, you should be able to see, bars here, it wants to go that way. Okay, so this is where I want it to be, that's where it wants to be. For my movements, okay, I now need to ensure that I'm active, I'm engaged, and I'm pulling the bar back in this direction. Deadlift. Clean. Squat. Okay, this is something that I definitely shared with Lisa a long time ago. But in that front rack, when you're doing your front rack squat, if you are holding, okay, which I know, again, this is something we talked about recently in our live, if you're holding the bar forward of your chest and the bands are trying to take it that way, like this, we almost have no strength. It's going to pull us forward. Front rack training, if you've got that bar, you now have to figure out how to lock it backwards. You have to figure out how to launch it. Some of us, okay, wrists are going to be an issue, and there's some great tricks to deal with that using your strap, because most of us have straps at this point. Wrapping the strap around the bar, holding onto the strap, but you have to figure out how not to let the bar take you forward. And the more comfortable you get, go further back, add more resistance, right? So that we really have to stay active. Okay, the bar wants to go this way. It's up to me to keep it close. Trying to figure out that path. The reason, there's multiple reasons, but training our body with that forward resistance a little bit at lighter weight. Obviously, we're not doing this at our max weight. At lighter weight, start the body learning to keep the bar close, to keep the bar path as efficient as possible. So that when you start getting towards your heavier weight, remove the band. I would recommend, especially if you're trying this for the first time and you get up reasonably heavy, drop some weight off, because you've just spent the last 20 minutes or however long trying to get pulled forward. When that forward momentum is no longer there, you're gonna bring your bar up. There's a good chance that you might stumble backwards because you're so used to having to brace backwards. So dial it back, but then come up, and then all of a sudden you're like, oh, I no longer have to worry about this so much, but I'm still tight through here, keeping an efficient bar path, and I've now loosened up my shoulders and my back enough to get that forward kind of front rack solid position. Okay. So lots of different things that we've talked about, lots of them. Okay. This is this type of movement. I'll go kind of here. So I'm at like 95 pounds here. I'll probably go up to about 135, maybe 155. Then I'll start removing the bands, start playing again back at that 135, and then work my way up for the clean. Deadlift, same thing. Okay? With our deadlift, we want to be very strong and active with those lats, but it's going to be that that action with the lats of pulling the bar into you, because the deadlift is more about pushing the ground away than it is about pulling the bar off the ground. You're just holding. Okay, your upper body should just be fixed, and it is just this pull back and then launch. That's your deadlift. Bands are going to help develop that, because it's going to want to pull this way. You have to now actively engage, pull your lats in, think of lifting the heart, driving through the foot, and pushing the ground away. The snatch, of course, a little bit different. Don't do overhead with the bands. Don't do that. Eventually, of course, you can, but that's like way far away. Like, I would not recommend that, any of the overhead movements with the bands, trying to pull the weight forward and down. Mechanically, that's not something that we need to do. You can still do this similar type of movement with a snatch. They call it the high pull, which is just the pull from basically the knees up to the shoulders. And so this action just right here, the same thing. It's going to want to go forward. It's up to us to keep that bar path as efficient as possible. So, okay, lots of things. More of an info session than an actual warm-up or a workout session. But these are the different types of movements and drills that I use a lot when I'm doing heavy bar work, when it happens, because it happens a lot. I'm probably spending 45 minutes to warm up. Then the actual heavy stuff, probably another, 20 to 40 minutes. But I'm really taking that 45 minutes of warm-up time. Okay? Figure out mechanically how you're doing. Figure out the movements that you want to do, what you need to focus on. You're aware of lots of different ways to warm up, to play. But now, hopefully, you've got a few additional tools that you can put into that toolbox of different things to try. Okay? You're like, hey, do you know what? I've been stuck on just really figuring out how to get my elbows underneath for my clean. Well, let's make sure our shoulders are relaxed. Let's make sure our lats are stretched out. Let's make sure that our traps are massaged out. You know how to do that now. Hey, we can play with the different types of shoulder rotations under the bar. Okay, back rack, front rack. You can play with different positions with the band. I love doing front squats with the band as part of my warm-up, because it's also going to really engage the core. Pretty much any time that you're using the band, okay, we're going to have to engage our core. So, lots of stuff. Okay? And I'm probably going to come back to do some of these in like an actual workout or warm up. Hopefully when it's a little bit warmer than it is currently here. But today's just about concepts, ideas, and figuring things out for us and how we can hopefully be a little bit more comfortable playing with the bar. Because there's definitely going to be some bar workouts coming in your direction fairly shortly. You know, I'm finally getting you know, above the freezing point here, so I feel like it's time to do a little bit of yard work. Okay, until next time, I'm Aaron. Thoughts, feedback, let me know. Hey, if there's something specific that, especially today, just doesn't quite make sense, you want a little bit more of a detailed breakdown, really reach out, let me know. Okay, but until next time, friends, have fun.